Genghis Khan. I mean, just say the name, right? You probably picture thundering hooves, conquered cities, total brutal conquest. But what if I told you there's more to the story? Was he just a destroyer, or could he, in some wild, complicated way, be the guy who actually kicked off the modern world? The real story? Well, it's way more contradictory and honestly more fascinating than you probably think.
So to get into this, let's start with a real-life mystery, something you can actually go looking for: the hunt for his lost tomb. Seriously, for centuries, people, adventurers, archaeologists, you name it, have been obsessed with finding it. It's a puzzle that started the second he died.
You see, after he died back in 1227, they went to extreme lengths to hide his final resting place. We're talking top-secret state-level stuff. They supposedly took his body to a sacred mountain, way out in a forbidden zone in Mongolia. And it wasn't just protected by guards, it was protected by stories, by a powerful wall of secrecy and legend.
And the stories? Oh man, they are the stuff of nightmares. I mean, they were literally designed to scare people away forever. The legend goes that the funeral escort, 10,000 riders, killed anyone and anything that saw the procession. Then 800 horsemen supposedly trampled the grave until it was completely flat, just gone. And to top it all off, they planted an entire forest over it. And of course, there's a curse. A big one. It warns that the world will literally end if his tomb is ever disturbed.
So you can see how this all feeds into the classic image we have of him, right? This intense secrecy, this crazy mythology. It all points to the picture painted by the people he conquered. Genghis Khan, the merciless, unstoppable punishment of God.
And look, let's be clear, the destruction was absolutely staggering. We're talking about numbers that are hard to even wrap your head around. Some historians estimate that the Mongol invasions led to the deaths of 40 million people. That was a huge chunk of the entire world's population back then. Entire civilizations were just gone.
And this wasn't an accident. This was a reputation he wanted. He leaned right into it. He didn't see himself as some random conqueror out for loot. No, he saw it as a divine mission. He famously told the leaders of one city he conquered that he was the punishment of God, sent to discipline them for their sins. He literally used terror as a weapon of war.
But here's the first big question, the first clue to the puzzle. Was this just mindless violence? Or was there a kind of logic to it, a cold, hard plan behind all the chaos? Because believe it or not, underneath that wave of destruction, something new was being built. Something strict, sophisticated, and, well, surprisingly modern. It all started with something called the Yasa. This was his secret legal code. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just a list of don't do this, don't do that. No way. It was a revolutionary system that took all these warring, scattered tribes and forged them into a single, unified, and ruthlessly disciplined empire. And the number one rule? Absolute obedience to the Khan.
And this right here, this shows you exactly how they thought about war. For the Mongols, there wasn't really peace and war like we think of it. There were only two options: submission or rebellion. That's it. Your city had a choice. If you surrendered peacefully, you were spared. Your people became part of the empire and were protected. But if you resisted, you were labeled a bad city. And your fate was total, absolute destruction. Simple as that. So, this simple, brutal choice, it's how they built the largest land empire in the history of the world. And here's the twist. As terrifying as submitting sounds, it actually came with some shockingly modern benefits. For the people who did bend the knee, life inside the Mongol Empire could be surprisingly progressive.
I mean, check this out. Inside his empire, Genghis Khan put ideas into practice that were centuries ahead of their time. He abolished torture. He promoted his generals based on skill and merit, not because of who their dad was. And maybe the most shocking of all, he guaranteed total religious freedom. For everyone, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, it didn't matter. He created the biggest free trade zone in history, the so-called Pax Mongolica, or Mongol Peace. And it was all held together by a rule of law that was, brutally enforced, but it was reliable. And all this created this incredibly powerful new identity. There's this amazing story about a Mongol warrior who happened to be a devout Christian. Someone asked him, "How can you fight against other Christians?" And his answer was just stunning for that era. He said, "Yes, I am a Christian, but first I am a Mongol." Think about that. It was a secular national identity that was stronger than religion, stronger than tribe. The world had never seen anything like it. So what are we left with? We've got this brutal conqueror on one side, and this progressive, visionary leader on the other.
How do you even square those two things? That's the paradox of Genghis Khan. And trust me, it's about to get even weirder.
Okay, so this brings us to probably the most unexpected consequence of his entire reign. Seriously, nobody could have predicted this. Recent research suggests that Genghis Khan might have been an unlikely climate hero. Yeah, you heard me. History's greenest invader.
How is that even possible? Well, it's simple and it's grim. The massive depopulation from his wars meant that huge, vast areas of farmland were just abandoned. Nobody was left to farm them. So over time, these fields went back to nature. They became forests again. And what do forests do? They suck up huge amounts of carbon from the atmosphere. So much so that it actually led to the first known instance of man-made global cooling.
And to give you an idea of how much we're talking about, that 700 million tons of carbon, that's about the same amount of carbon the entire planet puts out from using gasoline for a whole year. Today, it's just a mind-blowing environmental impact, but it was born from unimaginable destruction. He was a creator and a destroyer, in literally every sense of the word.
And this brings us full circle, right back to where we started. Back to that missing tomb. It really is the perfect symbol for his whole legacy, isn't it? The man himself is a puzzle, wrapped up in a mystery and buried somewhere in total secrecy.
So who was the real Genghis Khan? Was he just a bloodthirsty savage, or was he a visionary who literally created the modern world? The evidence forces us to hold both ideas in our heads at the same time. The brutal truth is that by connecting East and West, by creating that massive free trade zone, by enforcing his laws, he laid the foundation, a very bloody foundation, for the globalized world we know today. You just can't give a simple answer.
And, maybe that's the only conclusion that really hits. The fact that his tomb is still out there, undiscovered, is the perfect metaphor. His true identity, his real legacy, it's just as hidden, just as elusive as his final resting place. And just like those teams searching for his tomb, the search for the real Genghis Khan continues.